joining us this morning to say goodbye to and mourn a wonderful and loving mother and granddaughter and great-granddaughter and friend. Emma Milkina's early life in a war zone might have turned out very differently. Instead, it set her on the path to being the incredibly warm, nurturing, and loving woman we are here to mourn today. Born in Leningrad in 1935, she was 6 when the Nazis besieged the city. Over the next 2 years, nearly half of the citizens of Leningrad died of starvation and exposure. People went about their day, surrounded by corpses in the street. And in the midst of this genocide, with her father fighting on the front and her mother working all day to ensure the family didn't starve, Emma took responsibility for her little brother, Leo. When their building was bombed, rescuers frantically threw the children out the window to save them from fire or building collapse. Lying in the snow for several hours, Emma developed frostbite-related vascular problems that would plague her for the rest of her life and prevent her from being on her feet for extended periods. And yet, despite this incredibly dark time, Emma lavished love, first on her brothers, Misha was born after the war, and then later on her husband, Yuri, and children, Boris and Reza. Although she qualified as a teacher, Emma struggled to control a classroom, perhaps because she needed to sit behind a desk, but more likely because she was not a disciplinarian by nature. She couldn't help her sweet disposition, and was maybe a bit too kind with her more unruly students. Many years later, Michael benefited from this attitude, which was the undoing of her teaching career. As he put it, no matter what terrible things you might do, not only would she still love you unconditionally, but she'd excuse absolutely everything. A beautiful woman, Emma was only 19 when she married Yuri, a self-made man who was definitely the family leader. Together, they made a life in Leningrad where they raised Boris and Reza. When Reza made it to Boston in 1991, the rest of the family followed. Not an easy feat to start life over, first in New York, then in Boston, and without speaking English. Yuri was the strict, autocratic parent, the one who demanded to see Boris and Reza's report cards, who insisted they clean their rooms. He could be angry, disappointed, but not Emma. Whatever happened, with Emma you were loved unconditionally, and she would give you all of her warmth and good hugs. And Reza said that if Yuri made her clean up her room, and she somehow didn't manage to do it, Emma would do it for her. Together, Yuri and Emma balanced each other out. He was the salt, the down-to-earth, strict, disciplined parent. And she was sugar personified. And while Yuri mellowed out somewhat as a grandfather and great-grandfather, very much enjoying and indulging Daniel, Raphael, Lazarus, and Zoe in a way he never quite did with Dmitri, Toma, and Michael, Emma, on the other hand, couldn't go any next level because she was already so incredibly loving. But Emma was perhaps best known for her pathological need to feed everybody. Perhaps not so surprising after literally watching friends and neighbors die of hunger before her. Emma rallied from her childhood to become a terrific cook and a prolific baker. To her, food was love. Her gefilte fish, no particular recipe, just whatever fish was available for purchase, was legendary. So was her elaborate smetanic, rich with sugar cream and condensed milk, Michael's personal favorite. And then there was the time she went so overboard, thinking Hamantaschen, that Reza ended up bringing batches to work. Even the ducks were a little more round as a result of Emma's love. I understand that Emma remained a vibrant good beauty throughout her life, but it was her inner beauty that you will remember and miss. There's a line in the book of Judges, it's actually kind of a riddle, which I keep thinking of. Out of the strong comes the sweet. Perhaps her disposition came not despite her early life, but because of it. Perhaps Emma's survival was due to an inner strength, which allowed her to always be positive. Her ability to overlook her own hardships and the worst in people's behavior, and only see the good in them, and to defend that, even when they've done wrong. It was her hugs, her warmth, the special dish baked just for you. And I hope you are able to carry all of that with you, especially you, Michael, and Toma, and Dmitri, so that as you raise the next generation, you're able to give them even a taste of that sweetness with which you were raised. El malay rachamim shochem v'amrom chamtzeh menucha nechona chamtzeh hashchina v'ma'alot kedoshim u'shlovim v'zohar harakia ma'atimim et nishmat Esther bat ber Bakaya shehachal olama v'gan ein khem menuchata ana ba'al harachamim yastirecha b'seder knafav olamim bitzur chayim et nishmata v'mayhu naflata v'tanuch v'shalom v'mishkabach v'namah. Gracious and compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltered presence to the soul of Emma Milkina, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful and patient one, we ask that you remember all the worthy and righteous deeds she performed. May Emma find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up to the bond of life. And let us say, Amen. I'm going to continue now by inviting Morris to share some memories of his mother.
Excuse me, I'm going to continue in Russian because you could understand only Russian. Очень тяжело тут сказать нечего, потому что трудно себя заставить думать, что ее мамы больше нет. Рядом живущая любовь. Любовь для тепла, для бесконечной безоговорочной любви, все прощающей, все понимающей любви ко всем нам, ее детям, внукам, правнукам. А нас, у нее 11 человек, 2 детей, 3 внуков и 6 правнуков. И всех она называла моим солнышком. И меня, и Раю, и Мишу, и Тому, и Диму, и всех правнуков. Так и говорила. Лазарь, мое солнышко, Таня, мое солнышко, Том, солнышко. И последние слова, когда она еще была в сознании, и Миша позвонил, спросил, узнала ли она его, она сказала, да, Миша, мое солнышко. Когда я навещал ее в больнице, люблю, она обязательно расспрашивала, как дела у каждого, у меня, у Тома, у Димы, у Тани, особенно его учебе, Софии, и обязательно ради. Сказала, что не может нам помочь. А я думал, мамочка, о чем ты заботишься? Господи, только пожелаю здорово. Но она по-другому не могла. Она всю жизнь свою любила и заботилась о нас, согревала нас своей любовью. А вот теперь ее нет. Холодно стало. Она всегда была нашей защитой в детстве от основных папиных строгостей, и когда мы стали взрослыми, уже не нуждались в ее защите. Она была учительницей, бухгалтером, рядовой служащей, начальницей, что-то эквивалент здешнему свету. Но всегда ее основным занятием было быть мамой. Нас растить, кормить. Все, кто знал ее близко, знал, как трудно отказаться у нее за столом от еды, утешать, лечить. Когда-то, когда я умирал в возрасте нескольких недель, вот, врачи отказались дальше лечить меня, она выходила меня, вылечила. Знаю, я ей достался очень трудно. Но не любила на меня сердце карьера. И невозможно трудности, да.
words from your daughter, Toma. She says, I am reminded of a day a little over 2 years ago when you stood broken-hearted, burying a big part of your life. It was inseparable from your vision of life for yourself. Even though your relationship wasn't easy and you fought frequently, I don't think you were interested in a life without him. I know you were ready to see him again. To me, you were a lioness who loved and was so proud of her kids. You were not afraid to speak your mind and stand your ground. Traditions were important to you, and you fostered respect of Jewish heritage for your family through celebration of holidays and sharing of meals. Even though you always had a soft spot for your boys, you told me that a daughter is a mother's special gift. I'm sorry that I didn't get to talk to you before you left, but I feel like I was around in my thoughts and spirit. I believe that you are reunited with your husband, parents, and brothers, and will forever be around your loved ones. For those who leave behind, who miss you dearly, here is a home that resonated with me. A mighty wind blew night and day. It stole the oak tree's leaves away, then snapped its boughs and pulled its bark, till the oak was tattered and stark. But still the oak tree held its ground while other trees fell all around. The weary wind gave up and spoke, how can you still be standing, oak? The oak tree said, I know that you can break each branch of mine in two, carry every leaf away, shake my limbs and make me sway. But I have roots stretched in the earth, grown since before my birth. You'll never touch them, for you see, they are the deepest part of me. Until today, I wasn't sure just how much I could endure. But now I've found that thanks to you, I'm stronger than I ever knew. Can I come to you later?
Кто была моя мама? Как определить человека? Бывает женщина, врачка, лоер, женщина-жена. Она была женщина-мать. Она построила успешную карьеру, стала начальником отдела Большого Треста, но это никогда не было главным. Главное, она была мама. Это началось очень рано, как вот Равин рассказала, что когда я была 6 лет, началась война, и они оказались в блокаде. Бабушка уходила на работу, и она оставалась одна, она должна была take care of ее брат, потому что ему было 4 года, и он разучился ходить. Они лежали в кровати, она вот выходила и ухаживала за ними. Потом была эвакуация. Они потерялись, когда бабушка побежала за водой, они потерялись. И опять-таки она должна была отвечать за него, и за себя, и за него. И ей было всего 7 лет. После войны родился еще один брат младший, бэби-бумер. Ей было 11, и она его вырастила фактически, она была мамой для него. Это было очень-очень глубоко в ней. Она никогда не могла сказать «нет» нам. Мы могли делать все, что угодно, мы могли вынести всю квартиру, если нам хотелось поиграть. Весь холодильник, пожалуйста. Надо было только момент угадать, когда папы не было рядом, и все. И можно было все выносить или приносить в дом. Целука птиц со сломанными крыльями, рыбок. Все жили вместе. У птиц не было даже клетки, у нее был просто кладовку она отдала. Разрешила это делать нам. И мы все это пользовались этим. И она чистила за ними, убирала. Кот, правда, находился в постоянной степени anxiety, потому что ему не давали охотиться на птиц, которые были рядом. Ну, ему надо было дать прозок вообще. Дети было главное в их жизни, не только мы, вообще дети. Вот это главный экскьюз, пожалуйста. Скажешь, что у тебя больной ребенок, и ее подчиненные могли быть экскьюз. Пожалуйста, иди take care of a child. Я помню, когда мы возвращались из Севастополя в Алушты, мы там отдыхали на корабле, мы попали в ужасный шторм. И всем было плохо, включая ее. Ей было ужасно плохо, я тоже тошнила. Рядом сидела женщина с маленьким ребенком. и женщине стало плохо, она сунула этого ребенка маме на колени, его миракл. Мама вылечилась мгновенно, у нее появилась цель. Она ухаживала за этим ребенком, ее больше не тошнило вообще. Она была главной защитой для нас больше, в принципе, а потом для Миши и для внуков ее. Она никогда не могла пройти мимо, когда обижали ребенка или когда обижали слабого. Я помню, мы откуда-то шли и на улице видели такую картину, когда мужик бил своего сына, пьяный мужик бил своего сына, очень страшно. Люди проходили, отворачивались, делали вид, что они не видят. Она пошла на траву, она их разнимала. И это случалось каждый раз, она не могла пройти мимо, когда вот обижали слабого. Папа это терпеть не мог, потому что ему приходилось ввязываться в это и спасать ее. Потому что она была метр 50 с кепкой, и это было смешно, но не совсем небезопасно. Она действительно обожала готовить, не знала меру в этом. Мои ленинградские подруги до сих пор вспоминают, когда она там устраивала им юбилей, дни рождения, свадьбы. Она действительно не знала меру, и вот этот вот эпизод, когда я помню, что я проезжала мимо, сказала: мама, я забегу на минутку, только я есть не буду. Даже несмотря на то, что у тебя комнатажи напечены. Я еду в офис. Она говорит: хорошо, приезжай. Через 2 часа я заехала. Я девочкам тоже своим приготовлю. Там было не блюдо, там был таз в комментаже. Никогда меры не знала об этом. Она никогда не примирилась с этой вот cardiac diet. 2 grams of salt for the whole day. Говорю, какой дурак это придумал. Это невкусно, это невозможно есть. Sorry, doctors. Я злилась на нее. Ужасно. Я говорила: зачем так много готовить, зачем так много есть, вам надо худеть. И вообще я больше 3 кастрюли кому не возьму. Сколько я сейчас отдала, чтобы хоть еще 1 раз посидеть не за столом и взять эти кастрюли на пол.
So I'll speak English because it's easier. A lot of things have been said that I'll probably repeat. So it sometimes feels like an impossible task. To explain who Babushka was and who she was to us all. Being a survivor of the siege, the hunger she experienced and witnessed forever imprinted on her the importance of food. As she grew up, she learned to cook and became very good at it. She strove to feed everyone that walked and everything that walked through her house. Whether they liked it or not, she would always insist there was time for at least a small cup of water, at least a tiny slice of fish, or it would take her no time at all to prepare a full 3-course meal. Everyone and everything that was under her care became well fed. When I visited her, not sitting down to eat was an insult. And for me to propose that I simply didn't have enough time to eat a 3-course meal, or that the time could be better spent talking about something else other than food, was a threat to be used sparingly. We ended up playing an unspoken game, where I would sit down and try to explain that I would eat only half of whatever she would bring me, hoping to spare her the effort of preparing a full meal every time I stopped by. And her trying to extend each meal to be grander and bigger than the one before. Her secret weapon in this game, one that I didn't quite appreciate until later, was that she knew that if she put food in front of me in whatever quantity, I would be unable to resist eating it. When I would come over, heaps of food would arrive at the table, no matter what I insisted, and she would ensure that these were all just for me to look at. Not exactly to eat, but if I really wanted to, I could eat it. This game went on for a very long time, and I lost more often than I could, eating most of the food that was on the table. So this need to give, provide, sustain were her calling, and it extended to everything she did. Babushka was also a uniquely kind and generous person for her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. We were the world to her, and our happiness was essential. For me as a kid growing up close to her, she was my total protector. From everyone an apologist, and for everything I did. No matter what I did or didn't do, no matter how wrong I was in any particular instance, no matter if I was pursued by my mom, my grandfather, or anyone else for my wrongdoing, I could always find protection underneath her kitchen table. For not even my grandfather was allowed to intrude upon that sacred space. I knew that once I made it as far as the kitchen table, my pursuers would be stopped at the kitchen door, for only Babushka ruled over that domain. There was no extradition for me from that sacred land. The pursuers would have to simply go back and clean up whatever thing I broke and brood over how I was being spoiled. In the last few years, nothing made her happier than watching her great-grandchildren grow. In better times, she would look forward to our weekly visits with Zoe and Lazarus. These were precious times for her, and the time that we spent with her was precious time for them as well. I believe the greatest thing that will be missed by me and her family is her unconditional love and support.
We are going to conclude this part of the service with a reading inside your booklet from the book of Ecclesiastes. And we'll read responsibly. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to reap, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to laugh and a time to weep, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to gain and a time to lose, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to love and a time to hate. We will conclude our service at the cemetery, and I ask you to rise. Are there family pallbearers as well? can help you.